Rise of Africa, the continent, the diaspora, and BRICS explores the relationships that are affecting the global economy right now. This book explores the relationships of the African diaspora's influence on the African continent and why this is important in stabilizing relationships with an understanding of how BRICS impacts the future, good or bad. You can order your copy of The Rise of Africa today on Amazon.com.
Neo-diplomacy is the new currency. Neo-diplomacy is the new currency. The reason that I can say that is you have a couple of different factors occurring right now as we speak on the world stage. The dollar is being disrupted. Nations are no longer wanting to engage with the United States. But the third factor that affects each and every one of us is that there is a diaspora from the African continent that's willing and able to engage our brothers and sisters on the continent.
Well, shalom, salama, siyemi, shalom. Greetings to all of my Israelite brothers and sisters from around the world, whether you're of the bloodline of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, the house of Israel, or you are a Gentile grafted into the house under the blood of Yahushua HaMashiach. I welcome you this morning as we're witnessing the free-for-all beginning. What do you mean, Brother Karras, a free-for-all? Well, let's just understand what is happening. It's funny because I'm listening to a lot of these channels. I'm listening to a lot of these reactions of different things, of stuff that I said literally like, I don't know, 8, 9, 10 months ago. and I laugh because I understand from their lack of vantage point of what they can only stand. You only know what you know. You know, that's it. You only know what you know. I had last week given you the synopsis, the breakdown of why I know what I know. What I've done, what I've experienced, what I've witnessed. And in doing so, you get a better understanding of when I say those particular things. I'm not just saying it because I'm trying to get subscribers or likes or view counts. I don't come on up there with, generally speaking, red screens or, SHTF. I don't need to be salacious. That's not me. I don't need to try to do something to feed the algorithm so more and more people can join and therefore I can get subscribers and this and that. No. That was not the intent of the channel, nor will it ever be the intent of the channel. The intent of the channel is if you want to actually listen to some Ruach-filled understanding of what's happening and how Yah provides the scriptural context for what is going on towards the end of our captivity. This is the end of our awakening period. There are phases and there are gates. I've said that. There are phases and there are gates as we near our captivity. For those that don't know of our captivity, yeah, that can be a little daunting. I get it. But for those of us that have understood that we're in captivity, that we've been in this captivity, that the Most High is fighting on behalf of his people, and there are mechanisms for how he is fighting for us, then this message is for you. Then this channel is for you. And this channel isn't just limited to, well, I need to have Israelites and Israelites only. I've never said that in that channel. If folks get in and they don't really understand the intro, then they need to pray about it. I've always said this, and I've always contended with this. This is for Israelites and Gentiles. And those Gentiles are going to really have to have a introspection of their hearts of, are they going to be able to deal with the Most High's children? Are they going to be able to come to the knowledge and the understanding of what that truly means? Because again, as all these things take place, you have to understand that in each and every aspect that we're seeing the Most High's word unfold, these Gentiles are getting scared. And it's not really for the Gentiles that are in righteousness, that know who they are, that have interacted with our people in the past, and that are just sitting back and being quiet and are gleaning understanding because they've realized that they've been lied to. I have Gentiles that have emailed me. Brother Karras, thank you for what you're doing. I pray that I'm a humble servant in the kingdom. Yeah, those are the emails. Brother Karras, I've been lied to. And, I feel terrible of what's going on. And I don't really know how to engage your people. So I'm sitting in the cut. I appreciate what you're doing. When you're doing the will of the Most High, what do Yahusha do? WDYD. What did Yahusha do? Get away from me, you filthy, nasty Gentile. Ah, did he go all crazy like that? It's up to the Most High that exposes hearts. In the background, listen, in this awakening, there are no Gentiles that have been, oh, I'm going to stymie the awakening. Do you know what happens in this awakening? You want to know who stymies this awakening? We do. It's our own people. And what do we do? Look, we got to give them the benefit of the doubt. So much so that even when we see things that are a little, suspect, a little interesting, we give our people a higher standard. And then they end up telling on themselves because they will basically show you who it is that they work for. Hasatan. And then in this time, what ends up happening is our people get sweet talked to just not even go off of anything scripturally. And that is the most disheartening fact about this. You may be a hearer or supposed doer of the word, but do you not have the discernment? I can't help people with discernment. That's between them and the Most High. I'm just going to tell you what the Most High puts on my heart. And we as a people, we have to stop being lazy. And I'll be the first one that holds up my hand with that. Because it happens to the best of us. It happens no matter the intent that you had for your brothers or your sisters. It doesn't matter. We have all been bamboozled at one point in time in this awakening. It happens. Let the Most High expose, and then let the Most High continue to lead. Many a times I have been heartbroken in this awakening. Many a times I have been spit on, cursed at, you name it. I don't care. If I cared, I would have quit this channel 3-4 years ago. But I know that it's not me, it's him, and that the Most High has allowed me to help our brothers and sisters in this community, and they have gone on to do bigger and better and greater things, far more than I can even think or imagine, because it's not my will, it's his will. I'm just here to be a vine dresser for the kingdom. That's it. Some bad fruit you got to cut away, some good fruit you let cultivate so it can be a sweet offering to the Most High. And in doing so, literally, that is how the Most High grows his kingdom, and that is through the works of his hands. If the Most High said, I'm going to be through with you, then guess what? He would send me somewhere else. And I would say, hallelujah. This is a hard thing to come up daily. It's a hard thing when there's literally about once a week. Man, why don't you just shut this thing down and do something else? That's what my flesh says. Why don't you just shut this thing down, do something else? You know, shut it down. You could do this, you could do that. This opportunity can come, that opportunity can come. This will begin to heal. This will begin to be amended. This will begin. But I have to think about it and give it thought. Because let me tell you, the amount of emails that I do receive, and I get a lot of hate emails, but a lot of the emails that do say, Brother Karras, we're praying for you. Hang in there, Brother Karras, we're praying for you. We know it's hard. We understand the sacrifices, Brother Karras. We appreciate it. We're praying for you. Those words of support and encouragement, it really does go a long way. If you didn't know, back in October, beginning of October, I was getting a part time salary from QTUA. That ended October 1st. And it ended because the Most High had led me to put my faith on out there because honestly, I thought that there was something that was getting ready to open up, and that would have been the time to alleviate financial burdens from QTUA. When QTUA first started, my intent was not to draw anything from QTUA. But I was told, no, Brother Karras, you need to be on this full time with a less than part time salary. And when I go in and I do something and I put my heart, my soul, my mind into it, my thought processes and capacities into it, when I create those diagrams, when I create those visual aids and products, when I create different documents and things of that nature, I really do go in. I do have to say that my best work that I've ever done was through QTUA, the best work, because it was efficiency and being efficient without feeling like it was a struggle. It was not a struggle. The amount of time, the amount of research, the coordination, because everybody that is there is a volunteer. And as things began to develop, you start to see the heart of people that's trying to serve Yah and the heart of men that are trying to serve themselves. It's just a natural process. People expose themselves. See, the thing is, before QTUA, I was on this channel covenant awakenings that the Most High put me on out here, exposing me and exposing my heart. There are numerous, look at 2020, 2021, and 2022. It wasn't just the channel. A couple years ago, I helped Sister Shonda with building bridges. And then the Most High had to lead me to something different. He led me over to Quest to Unite Africa. And in doing so, the Most High literally put me in front of people that I didn't think I'd be in front of. But I truly understood why the Most High did that, because when you have to bear your heart and you have to circumcise that flesh, it's not a fun thing. Many a nights have I been sleepless. Have I been disturbed in my spirit? Have I been bruised in my spirit? Father, why did you have me expose that? Why did you have me talk about the issues and things with my family? Why, Father? Those are the humbling experiences. I don't bad mouth out here in these YouTube streets. To me, it doesn't matter. Because all I know is the Most High is going to take care of me. I've seen it happen all of these years. You know, the crazy thing is the trials that took place in October and November. Well, let me tell you, every time there's a trial that takes place, that is an opportunity, because the Most High is saying, I got something better, but you're going to have to go through this. That's how the Most High works. The setback was literally a setup. I can't even express to you how awesome of a setup that was, because it involves people in our community that is making a direct difference on the continent. There's a reason why we ask for volunteers at Quest to Unite Africa. There's a reason. We need to know who our people are that is able and willing to help, because the doors are being flung open for our people to engage in a different economy. What does the Most High always do? He always has a ram in the bush for his people all the time. If you are a doctor, if you are doctors or nurses, if you are IT professionals, if you are engineers, please sign up. Because when you sign up, we have to train you. And when we train you, we're certifying you to be able to engage. with our brothers and sisters on the continent. People ask, how do we do this? How do we do that? Listen, it's literally the Most High that shows us how we get things done. I have had a direction. Now, we want to move like this, we want to move like that. And then what the Most High does, he stops me in my tracks. And he says, this is why we didn't move like this. And I had to say, hallelujah. Because if I had, there would have been pitfalls and traps and snares that had been laid out. That's an awesome Elohim that we serve. If you didn't know about the Most High, he sets the crooked path straight. He keeps our feet out of trouble. He gives us a direction that as folks try to throw you off, as folks try to throw you in jail, as folks try to have all sorts of this covert nonsense. It's the Most High that literally exposes. But in everything that I do, I always say, Father, please help me so that I am not falling into the sins of our ancestors. I have to pray for each and every one of you. I have to have love and compassion for each and every one of you. Because I truly know how the Most High loves you all just as he loves me. You all may not have to recognize that in such a greater response. Some folks, you all are blessed to have a steady 9 to 5 paycheck that is coming in from Babylon, and that's a blessing. Some folks may have something different, other folks may have other things different. But the reality is that every single facet of our comfort level will inevitably come to an end. That's how this thing is going. You may be comfortable for a longer duration. Hallelujah. Your discomfort may start literally right now or at the end of the year or at the beginning of the year. But it really is the Most High that has already shown us how this thing happens. So when it does happen, no one here is looking all crazy. No one here is looking at themselves and looking at others. What do we do now? What happens now? What? No. You understand that our heavenly Father, Yahuwah, is so awesome that he's already putting things into place right now. It just had to take us a little bit. His timing isn't our timing. And I've learned that. Man, I need an instantaneous Elohim that's I put them in the microwave and I set the timer, and that bag of popcorn is being popped in that recommended 2 to 2.5 minutes, and it's ready and it's fresh to eat. No, that's what this world says is how the Most High operates, and he doesn't. He is going to dangle you to the point that you are going to feel uncomfortable. You are going to feel hopeless. You are going to feel helpless. But what that is designed to do is to have you feel less of yourself and be able to call on Him and be able to be comfortable in what He is doing in you. I've gone through this before many, many a times, and I continue to go through it. It's only truly when I just say, Father, I thank you and I praise you. I am totally uncomfortable, which means that you're going to have a breakthrough. He gets his best out of us. When our fear and our trembling is directed towards him. Have you noticed in this society that they get the best from us when we are in fear and in desperation and in lack and in all sorts of derision? What do? They get the best from us because what do? We provide the necessary economic activity. And that activity is the innovation. That innovation is what they're able to do to create jobs off of our ideas. Sorry I'm exposing the system, but that's what the Most High put me here to do. Brother Karras is telling too many secrets. Will Brother Karras be next? This is why, family, I have to wear my tinfoil hat every single time I come on here because I'm telling you what this system does. And the system is always out to destroy. That tries to destroy. And it will try to destroy. They know that they can't destroy from their hands. Have you noticed this? This is a different era. They can't necessarily destroy from their hands per se. It always is a destruction from one of us. That's why I've always said, listen, you have to test people by their fruits. Don't go off of a smooth word. That's going to lead to destruction with no type of biblical argument or foundation. It leads to destruction. There is a situation, there is a point that everybody gets sifted. Are you firmly grounded in the Most High? Or when that wind blows, you're blown alongside with the wind, you're carried on off. It's too late for you. You're out. Don't be rooted in man. Be rooted in the Most High. That's what I've always said. And I've continued to stick by that. Do you not think that folks are going to be blown away? Absolutely, they are. And that's a hard thing to swallow when it comes to our people. That's why we always have to pray for our people. Not everybody was woken up spiritually. Sorry, that wasn't the case. Some folks, majority of our folks, were woken up in vanity. That is what happened. And that trap is a killer. It's a design. It's a design to ensure Babylon does not want to let our people go. We just read that in Jeremiah chapter 50. Babylon does not want to let us go. You may think that Babylon wants to let us go. No, they do not. Their hand is strong, but the Most High's hand is stronger. And if we cannot see and understand how this system works, then again, I always say that's between you and the Most High. I invite you all to sit down with our Heavenly Father and you ask Him to get in a closet and to come to Him with fear and trembling, to get in front of His face and say, Father, I really don't know what's going on, but I need your help. Humility is the best policy. Humility. Because I'm going to tell you this, family, this stuff is beginning to move very, very quickly. And if you're not grounded, look, what happens with everything? You get spiritually whisked away, and then you will become physically whisked away. The Most High literally makes that thing abundantly clear. It's a remnant. A remnant. I'm not guaranteed to make it. It's a remnant. So if you're hearing any type of teachers, if you're hearing anybody come on in here, oh no, you're gonna do this because you're gonna make it like this. You're gonna make it's a remnant. Everybody here in Babylon wants to have the easy button, and that's not how the Most High works. He's gonna stretch you. He's gonna pull you. He's gonna get you out your comfort zone. But boy, oh boy, if you lead any of his children, any of his sheep astray, woe to that man or that woman. What does it say? It's better to have a millstone on his neck and be floated to the bottom of the sea. Wow. This isn't a game to come on up here. I understood the assignment of opening up my mouth. This is not a game. Some people will say, well, you know what? The Most High really doesn't do anything anyway. So, you know what? I'm just going to go on over here and do what I need to do. Okay. And then you will be deleted in the worst way. The Most High does not play. That's how our Heavenly Father is. and he deals with us much more harshly than he deals with them. Because you want to know why? Because we're still in our captivity. So I really have to feel sorry for those folks that's on their hearts. I pray that the Most High gives them understanding before it's too late. And for a majority of them, they've made their bed. Or they were already just rotten fruit to begin with. We don't know. That's between them and the Most High. But you are always being judged off of your fruit. You know, the other day, I was discussing something and I said, you know what? I really cannot give you all of the details because I'm held to different things via different NDAs. I get told, you can't disclose this, you can't disclose that, and I get it. I have to deal with that that vanity. It is. Oh man, look at what the Most High's doing. Look how the Most High's moving. Look at this. Look at that. And then I have to go through into my flesh and be like, I can't say it. Hallelujah. I can't say it. I wish I was able to say all the details, but I'm not allowed to. And I get told, please, Brother Karras, please do not say anything because we don't want anything to jeopardize this. And I said, absolutely, hallelujah. But we've been told in this society, if you're not broadcasting all of this success, then what are you doing? You're not doing anything. You're just cheerleading yourself. You're just rah rah shishkamba. And then on the other side, the folks that are moving and doing what the Most High has put together. The Most High moves in a manner to where you're not going to see how he moves, but he is using his people to move. And that shouldn't be a case. But I understand it's the case that we have to live in this captivity, because in this captivity everybody's an agent. Everyone is. That's what this was designed for. Do you think that a lot of people that come on these channels, a lot of people that interact in our communities, do you really think that some of them have the best intentions for us? No. I've always said this. Test the spirit by the spirit. Ask the Most High about me. No, I'm not gonna. I'm not gonna give you a Barry Manilow or I'm not gonna give you the big sexy. Well, no. I'm here to tell you what the Most High is doing, what He's telling me, and how that thing is going. If you want to accept it or not, that's up to you. Well, Brother Karras wasn't pleading enough for his people. You're right. Because I have work I got to do here in the background. You're right. I have a section of the wall that I need to build up so I can try to help others know how to build the wall. We're here in a time that we need to have our people begin to build parts of this wall and not try to stymie one another, not try to get in one another's way. We need to have people that are not agents of Tobias and Sanballat. And that needs to happen right now, today. A lot of folks, especially in this community, guess what they like to do? I just like to sit and listen. I don't want to do anything. I don't. I'm just, the Most High is going to make a way for me to move, and that's that, and I'm going to do that, and this and that. Wait a second. Even in Egypt, the Most High made the children of Israel up and leave. And guess what? It wasn't the Most High Himself that made the children of Israel up and leave. A lot of folks really, really miss what was going on in Exodus chapters 13, 14, and 15. The Most High judged that nation of Mizraim so severely that the children, that nation of Mizraim, the peoples of Mizraim, told them to leave. Wait. I don't want to leave. I'm an Aboriginal. I don't want to leave. I'm a Native American. I don't want to leave and go home. Leave and go back to the place where you came from. Get on that boat that we have, and we're going to ship you on back. Because then all of a sudden, all the pages from the Library of Congress and the vaults, the catacombs of the Vatican will be opened up. Here you go. Here it is. Now leave us alone. It was the Most High that caused that. We need y'all to leave. We need y'all to get up on out of here. Matter of fact, we don't need you to leave. We are telling you leave, and we have our armed folks forcing you out because we don't want you here anymore because of what you have done to us. What you did to our economy, what you did to our society, what you did to our military, what you did to our diplomacy, what you did to our learned folks, our education. This is a direct result. Their wisdom is destroyed. Because why? Because they had to focus more on us than they could focus on understanding how the world dynamics have changed. and it has not been in their favor. So now we're understanding types and shadows because why? Because we're going through the same thing right now, today, as we speak. These folks over here, they're fighting, they are itching to fight. No, brother Asaph, the Vatican will open their vaults when the West is fully judged. Just like the Egyptians threw out their gold and their silver as the children of Israel were leaving. And I thank the Most High that He is making us uncomfortable, myself included. Oh, I get uncomfortable. But it's not my flesh that needs to be comforted. It's my spirit agreeing with what the Most High is doing and saying and bringing us through, that keeps us moving and keeps us going and keeps us growing, because we are not equipped to do this on our own. No one here was. No one here had the capacity to do anything outside of the Most High's will. None. We all had to go through this. We all had to grow through this. And that was the growing aspect, because as we're growing spiritually, as we're growing with the people, then the earth is groaning. Because why? Because some pains are contractions, because of us being able to come together and ask the Most High, Father, show me, so then I can no longer agree with the system, but I'm in agreement with you. And so I'm calling things out on your word that then destroys the system spiritually. Because that's how this thing was made. It was a spiritual framework. Do you agree with your captors? Look at what they're doing. Do you agree with the vote? Do you agree with your captivity? Do you agree? I would say in this last election, a lot of our people did not agree with our captivity. You mean you didn't agree with Pharaoh A or Pharaoh B? And now, if you all hadn't noticed, not even a month after the election, you had Syria fall. Thank you, family, for this hour that I built up to get into the crux of this. But I wanted you to understand what it is that we're going through. Just because they don't want to tell you how the Most High is moving doesn't mean that the Most High is moving. I'm going to tell you this. I'm going to ask you this. I'm going to poll here. I'm going to poll here. Who here remembers when I was talking about Egypt? It was about 2, 3 months ago. I was talking about Egypt, and I was talking about be careful and see how Egypt was reacting, especially with what was going on in Gaza. If you remember that, give me a 1. If you don't remember that, give me a 2. And then for those literally last week, when I was talking about Egypt and Egypt being a linchpin in the Middle East, literally last week, give me a 1 if you remember it, or a 2 if you don't. And there was a reason for that. Remember, we were talking about the Egyptian soldier that had been killed in some clashes over in the south end of Gaza. Gaza backs up to Egypt. And Egypt was not allowed to send aid into Gaza because they were mad, or the um, Eastern Mediterranean nation was mad about the implications of what aid means, i.e., weapons and things of that nature. And remember, because I want to give us, I have to draw back here this historical analysis here, because I distinctly said this about on Sunday when I said the special report, and that special report was regarding the other Arab nations, what they were not understanding. I said this was December 8th. I brought this on out. That was a special report. I said, and it was even beforehand last week. I said, keep in mind, and I did that last week on Thursday. Folks, if you want to go through and you want to listen that Thursday, I brought that on up. I brought up the Arab Republic of Syria. I brought up the Organization of Islamic Council, and I brought up Egypt's traditional ties to Syria from the 1960s. So let me refresh your memory as I'm bringing all of these things to bear. I'm going to first start out here. So you can get an understanding. Here we go. I want to. I like to teach. I like to teach because who else do you see here that would actually provide, I mean, decent context of what's going out in the Middle East? When I had worked in the DoD, especially at CENTCOM, one of the most fascinating things that I would do, I would always go to the classes. They in one of the areas of where I worked at, they would even have Egyptian born professors. And these Egyptian born professors would, give some context and clarity and, and things of that nature, because even though Egypt has been in a weakened state, it has been for quite a while. We already know. Egypt has always been the ones to understand who they are and really what their assignment has been since we had been taken into captivity. It's hard to understand this. It's hard to realize this. I want to break this on down. Egypt has known and has understood what their assignment has been since we came and had been taken into captivity. When I came down to Tampa originally in 2007, when I started to my work at McDill Air Force Base, I worked as an admin, as a specialist, analyst, who knows what it is, in the Marine Corps. Basically, it was Marine Corps HR. I was fantastic at the job because, again, with how I always do things, the end results are always fantastic. I think there was one year there, we you did an assessment on like for like uh your job. They bring it back to Pentagon DC at headquarters Marine Corps. And I remember that year, it was a brother, it was a Hebrew. Had a couple of Hebrews for supervisors and like a head supervisor. And I remember this brother was from Alabama. At that time, he had the old school, that Porsche SUV that had just come out in 2006, 2007. Hollins was his name. Yeah, Gunnery Sergeant Hollins. I'll name drop. For my internet sleuths, and maybe it'll be a cousin of yours. Do you know this brother? Yeah, I know him. He brought me aside, him and Staff Sergeant Marshall, and he's still here in Tampa. I see him every so often. Now, this wasn't a counseling statement. This was them. They came through and they're like, "Hey, we're about to have this MCAT," that stood for Marine Corps Administrative Analysis Team. Those are your folks that did the surveys and made sure that you were functional. Those are the ones that would basically get your boss, um, as like one of the best. And then, you could do like you just get more. Yeah. If you have a good MCAT score, especially if you're on active duty, you get better assignments because, they want you over at different locations, locale. And I've seen a lot of folks that had really good duty assignments, and because you get awards and things of that nature. The funny thing is that year, because they knew what I was and what I was about, with my getting ready to finish up my bachelor's degree and everything else. I was already trying to, transition to something different. I was already, making, getting feelers over at CENTCOM, which was within the same vicinity. It was walking area. So I had some folks, but they came to me and they said, Sergeant Copeland, I know that you're working on your bachelor's degree. I know that you're finishing that up, but we need you to concentrate on this. We need you. Like, they sat down with me. We need you. Because a lot of that time I was already kind of half-hearted into it because I knew that I already felt that I was already going to move on and progress on because you could tell when that happens if folks, it's not necessarily losing confidence, but when people don't like you, because being a Marine that's educated is, and especially a brother that's educated as a Marine at that time, it was very off-putting to folks because I had expressed my interest as an officer, and I had, you know, um, political issues that was going on, and so I wasn't very, I didn't have my heart into it. I was already, getting ready to get off of those orders to go elsewhere. But in doing so, I said this to him. I said, "Yeah, I'll make the commitment. We'll get everything together and we'll go from there." That year, our MCAT score was 99.64, which was really unheard of. Basically, we did everything right. In my particular section, I had everything correct. And, they gave us awards and things of that nature. And, as so many times, you award, you get that person. I still remember her name, Chief Warrant Officer 3 Williams. She had left, and the Warrant Officer Thrasher came in and was saying, "Hey, thank you, Sergeant Copeland, for your service, and we're going to kick you off of orders." And I said, "Okay, that's fine." I said, "Hallelujah." Then the very next day, I go over to, actually, not the very next day, that same day, I'm going over to a dental appointment, and I'm being offered a position to work at CENTCOM. And to me, I was very ecstatic. I said, yeah, thank you, Father. But it was different working at CENTCOM because I didn't have to work that much. It was a different arena of work. So what I did in order for me to be productive, in the system of Babylon, you have to stay productive, because if you're not productive, then guess what happens? You feel that you're lazy, right? Oh, I had all that on me. If you don't do this, if you don't do that, you're lazy. If you don't do this, if you don't do, we all go through that. It's the system of Babylon. But in doing so, with the amount of time that I had, I would sign up to take classes. I took as many classes that I could with my limited security clearance level. Keep in mind that, as an admin, you only get like a low security clearance just because of the nature of the job. But to me, I was always enthralled because I'm like, okay, Father, you brought me here to CENTCOM for a reason. You brought me here. So I wanted to learn and learn and learn and just sponge up as much as I could. By the time I made it over to CENTCOM, I was already doing my MBA program. But it was a two-star general that said, Sergeant Copeland, what do you plan on doing after this? I said, well, I'm just going to finish this on up, finish up my MBA. I can get it done within a year, and I'm going to, look elsewhere. And that's when I was told to put in for my officer position, my officer packet. I'm like, okay. So I always have to look at, okay, what is it that the Most High is trying to do? What is he trying to say? But I particularly remember that I would go to these classes. I would go to these classes, and you do get a whenever you have that a great impression of a class. For some odd reason, I soaked up everything that they would allow for me to understand with Egypt. And the reason I would go to those classes is because in my job capacity, I worked with the coalition. So then I would kind of take my knowledge and then I would ask the Egyptians, so what do you think about this? And what do you think about that? And what do you think? And sometimes they would kind of look at me because it would be like, what are you able to handle? If I'm telling you what I'm going to tell you, what are you going to be able to handle? Can you handle what I'm saying, or are you too Eurocentrically positioned, especially in the military, especially when you're not even allowed to really have your own thoughts and opinions outside of what has been shaped? How indoctrinated have you been? Right? Because there were a lot of really, really hard scenarios and situations to understand. So this is X, Y, and Z. Oh, I would have never thought about this. Or this is so it helped me to really get a grasp because once you understood the foundations of Egypt, then you could understand that Egypt was a lot more than what the United States and the West was telling you. That it was a lot more than just the Suez Canal. And then when you started to understand the realities of Egypt, I'm talking from like the Azar, I'm talking from like how they were trying to position themselves as an Islamic education system. Yes, they were trying to uphold tenets of different things that they didn't want to see being destroyed via Islam. So you would have the Grand Mosque of the Azhar. There was even a power struggle amongst the caliphates that involved Egypt. A lot of Muslims did not want Egypt to have the power that it once had when Islam had first been established. Because why? Because Egypt was still overseeing a lot of the historical documents. Let me go into this because you have to understand the nature of Islam and Egypt because Egypt was literally the nation that legitimized Islam. That's how they have always structured themselves in the quote unquote Islamic world. That's how you see, if you don't understand their history, then you cannot understand what's getting ready to happen. And then you're thinking that, okay, well, that's out of the blue when it's technically not out of the blue. It's technically that was getting ready to occur because of the dynamics. And Egypt just doesn't bring Egypt along with them. Egypt brings with them a different contingent and dynamic that then calls upon the resources of the Arabs, the Maghreb, the Berber states, and the Sahel. Egypt has a much more wider expanse and a coalition of forces that they would be able to muster up. I.e., Egypt is about to bring up some Sudanese. And then bringing up these Sudanese, guess what's going to end up happening? That civil war in Sudan will squash. They will be rallying forces. So sorry if I'm becoming a little long winded today, but I have to explain this thing to you so you can start to understand why we're looking at what we're looking at and why we will not be surprised when we're seeing everything that we're calling on out. Yep, that's happening, that's happening, that's happening. You realize that for what I do provide, the government contracts for these studies millions of dollars. I'm just saying, you're getting something that the government pays. This government, United States government, pays millions of dollars to have studies like this synthesized. to be able to have a knowledge base. Not only was I there talking to our folks in Egypt, man, I even have some email. I have emails and points of contact. That's crazy. And I still maintain them. Don't ask me, family. Don't ask. I had been to Egypt 6 times. Been to Cairo, been to Alexandria a few times. Pyramid of Giza a couple times. Actually, it was 3 times I've been there. When you see my channel, you see Egypt in the background. It's kind of funny, kind of appropriate right now for this day and age. But I needed to give you, this hour and a half, introduction, because I had to give you my little bit of an introspection. And this is how we're going to go here. Financial Times. The Eastern Mediterranean nation draws furious reaction from Egypt after taking more Syrian territory. The end guy has justified the incursion as a temporary move to protect them folks as citizens. Supposedly, right? That nation has taken more Syrian territory, justifying the incursion as a temporary move to protect its citizens, but drawing a furious reaction in the region. The defense minister on Monday said the country's military was continuing to seize high ground inside Syria after the toppling Bashar al-Assad's regime on Sunday by a group led by Islamist Hayat Tahrir al-Sham. The movement of tanks and infantry, which extended into and beyond a previously demilitarized buffer zone, was condemned in the strongest possible terms by Egypt. Cairo said it amounted to the occupation of Syrian land and a severe breach of a 1974 armistice deal. Regional powers are scrambling to respond to the stunning 12-day offensive by HTS, once an affiliate of Al-Qaeda, which led disparate rebel factions to overthrow the Assad dynasty on Sunday. Let's take a look. This is about an hour ago. Egyptian streets. Let me put this in the chat here. Because when you see what they're saying, you're going to get an idea of how they are going to react. And I like to do non-Western sources because Western sources are always going to give you that, oh, nothing's going to happen, nothing to see. They don't tell you the truth. I'm sorry, they just don't. Here we go. I put that in the chat from Egyptian Streets. Egypt condemns that nation's seizure of Syrian buffer zone amid rising tensions. December 10th by Bilal Nawar. On Monday, 9 December, Egypt condemned that nation's seizure of the buffer zone with Syria, describing the actions as an occupation of Syrian territories. According to Egypt's foreign minister, this seizure constitutes an obvious violation of Syria's sovereignty and a clear breach of the 1974 disengagement agreement, which established a ceasefire line in a UN monitored buffer zone between them folks and the Syrian military positions in Golan Heights. The recent move follows the overthrow of President Bashar al Assad's government by Syrian insurgents, which was followed by them folks' tanks capturing the strategically significant buffer zone in Jabal al Sheikh on the Syrian side of the Golan Heights. In the wake of the insurgents' victories, that nation's prime minister Ngai declared the 1974 agreement void, asserting that that nation would take necessary actions to secure its interest in the region. Here we go. In its statement, Egypt emphasized that that nation's practices not only violate international laws but also threaten the unity and integrity of Syrian territories, and the Egyptian government expressed that these actions take advantage of the instability and power vacuum in Syria, making an already tense and complicated situation. And this is now the crux of it. Cairo has called upon the United Nations Security Council and global powers to assume their responsibilities and take a firm stance against that nation's aggressions, advocating for the protection of Syria's sovereignty over all its territories. The Egyptian Foreign Ministry also stressed the need for international accountability regarding that nation's actions, which they view as detrimental to peace and stability in the region. So if you have destabilizing actions, how do you then stabilize it? I'm just giving you here we go. Sorry, all these commercial or the advertisements in here. But I'm highlighting this. Okay. Thank you, Jabroni. Jabroni, you knew exactly what I was going to say. See, a lot of these times, Egypt. Let me tell you the dynamics of Egypt, so you all understand this. Give me about 3 minutes so I can break this on down to you. Earlier this year, Egypt had accepted its inclusion into BRICS as a BRICS Plus member, which means that Egypt has been formalizing agreements to bilateral trade agreements within its BRICS memberships, within its BRICS member status, its BRICS Plus status, all of that, all the above. So Egypt is no longer a Western leaning, Euro centric leaning nation. And those strides, Egypt has also, over the course of a few years, they have begun to assert their African leaning cultural affinity to the continent. For the last, I would say, 60, 70 years, actually 2 centuries, I'm going to say, Egypt has always tried to model itself as a, Hellenistic model to where they wanted to just be really the southern part of Greece or the southern part of Europe. The southern part of Europe on the Mediterranean. And I saw that with my own eyes going to Alexandria and other places in the area. But a shift had occurred over the last couple of years, i.e., the pandemic. And Egypt began to realize that they are indeed on the African continent, that they are indeed northeastern Africa. So instead of looking towards Europe, they started to look towards Africa and they started to assert more of a role within Africa. That has been what LCC has been doing. They've been doing more and more militaristic games, military cooperation agreements with countries on the African continent. That's why when I had said that they can rally up forces and muster up forces, Egypt would be a formidable force with its allies on the continent. No one in Europe wants to see that, especially no one in that Eastern Mediterranean nation. And for them in that Eastern Mediterranean nation, via Western proxies, they have been able, this is what's happened, they have been enabled to provide all this sorts of aid and economic, you know, whatever. They get trinkets. They get trinkets. And because of the dollar's position so right now, and because of BRICS' standing right now, the value of the dollar is not perceived as the value it had once been, if you all can follow. And because of its affiliation with BRICS, it has literally meant that it is delinking itself from BRICS to be more involved within the African Union, and it is trying to ensure that it has economic sovereignty of all those things entering the Nile and entering the Suez Canal. So now, when you understand that the door has been opened for Egypt to take advantage of going up into Syria, of stabilizing things. This is what they're saying to promote peace. Understand that Egypt is throwing its hat into the arena as a BRICS Plus member that is going to inevitably sway the balance of power from the West to the global South. This is how this free for all begins. I had stated that. Now you're going to probably see some internal destabilization operations, perhaps with probably Muslim Brotherhood or some sort of Al Qaeda or ISIS operations that inevitably, inherently exist when there is a plot or a move that is getting ready to take place. And they have to be measured in their words because they have to say we're going to do something, but they can't say that we're going to do something, because the moment that they actually mobilize to do something, then they're going to have a terrorist operation. Oh, you all thought that you were going to step foot. Well, I mobilized some folks. And now you understand that these factions of terrorists that have been co-opted, now the world can begin to see what it was really all about. Why does it say that when the hammer of the whole world is broken, and that what? And the world is at peace. The world will be at peace for about a generation. I'll let you fill in the blanks on that one. And no, that Eastern Mediterranean nation did not have to go through Jordan. Syria and that Eastern Mediterranean nation, they share a border. They share a border. And I'll continue to read that article so you have more clarity. Golan Heights is a strategically significant plateau located in southwestern Syria, covering approximately 1,000 square kilometers. Its importance lies in its elevated terrain, which provides a commanding view of the surrounding areas, including southern Syria and northern Eastern Mediterranean nation. They're connected. That Eastern Mediterranean nation seized the Golan Heights from Syria during the closing stages of the 1967 Six-Day War, leading to the displacement of most Syrian Arab inhabitants and establishing that Eastern Mediterranean nation's military control over the region. So that's what's happened. Well, they're not going to own up to anything, but the world can see the conveniences of, how they created the quote unquote boogeyman. And now you're seeing the boogeyman kind of being exposed. Now you're seeing who's the boogeyman's boss. How does the boogeyman getting paid? Oh, okay. That's what people don't like. So again, to me, this is a desperation time, because in this desperation time, you're exposing all the tips, right? You're exposing all your hand. You're going all in, and you're laying all your cards down on the table. And as they're laying their cards down, then people can see what they're dealing with. And people can begin to understand what it is that these nations have gone through. But again, people are more reluctant to keep things quiet, especially when folks are being paid. And now if your money is no longer good or of value as it once had been, then people tend to rat out the operation per se. So that now becomes a concern because of that shadowy talk and that dark policy that's happening. Now, one of the things that I have to kind of go back into, let me share this. This is in the Twitter spaces, the X spaces. There are posts like this saying Egypt condemns the Eastern Mediterranean nation, accuses IDF of occupying Syrian land, and calls for UN action. What is he trying to do in calling for UN action? He's trying to rally up the rest of the world to intervene. When people talk about World War III and all these different, functions, World War III is on the horizon. Okay. But how? Well, because of what they just did. And what is that going to do? It's going to do something. I know it's going to do something, but how is it going to do it? I always have to say, when you start to get this, rest assured it's not going to only be Egypt saying this. This is a big deal because now it is a perceived Arab ally to the West or of the West kind of bucking the system, showing disregard and bucking the system. And if he's making that call, then others are going to be aligning with him in that same call. And that is when you're going to have pandemonium happen. Because as folks are then heeding the call, then the call becomes more and more increasingly demonstrative of military action and force. Now, if you're calling us up, now we're going to get called up. If you're calling us on up, if you're trying to bring in some Sudanese forces, this is how this thing's going to roll. If you're going to bring in some Algerian forces, this is how it's going to go. If you're going to bring in some Libyan forces, some Moroccan forces, we're going to hit this. We're going to hit this one last time, and then we're done with this matter. So we can start doing what we need to do. It will start in Syria, and then it'll quickly spread all over. You just can't have a fight in Syria and not have U.S. military bases targeted. I would say right now, this is the most dangerous and most volatile situation in U.S. diplomacy since it's ever been. Because you have a capable and willing partner with Iran and Iraq. You have a Western front, which is a Southern front, and then you have an Eastern front. Also, in that front, you also have Saudi Arabia. And Jordan is going to be squeezed. But at the very last minute, they will give up that Eastern Mediterranean nation just for the sake of being able to exist. Because if not, if they don't, Jordan will be sucked into Saudi Arabia. Jordan will be non existent. The kingdom of Jordan will be non existent. They're going to now have to choose sides. And they won't choose sides until things kick off. But the moment that this Arab coalition and this Arab League sees what Jordan is doing, if Jordan goes towards the side of that Eastern Mediterranean nation, Jordan is done. And there will be plenty of Jordanians that will have King Abdullah take several seats because they weren't too happy with him and how he had supported that Eastern Mediterranean nation on October 1st. Come on now. I'm I'm giving you this understanding of how this thing is setting up. I'm praying that you all can see this. They pay millions of dollars to get this understanding because why? Because then they try to reverse engineer it. They try to find out what they can do to work within those spaces. And I'm going to say this. I'm going to say that really the United States and Western nations don't have any opportunity to have any type of wiggle room. They've already declared who they're for. That Eastern Mediterranean nation, when it falls, it is going to show the fractions and the divisions of the West, which will ultimately have the ultimate fraction or division against the US dollar, which is ultimately going to then cause an economic collapse. An economic collapse isn't going to happen just with inside the United States. It doesn't. Why is that? Because the US can print as much money as it wants to. That collapse is going to happen when folks are going to say, okay, now we're going to give you a 500% tariff. Because why? Because your dollar isn't what it used to be. It got exposed. You couldn't even support your satellite. You couldn't support your star. Let's take a look. And you will see in the world of wicked imaginations. Let me come here. It had to take me a little bit, family. I thank you for your patience with this. But I had to give the Most High praise because, as I had discussed this on Sunday, let me bring this to you all's attention. Second Esdras, chapter 15, verse 34. Behold, clouds from the east and from the north to the south, and their appearance is very threatening. The I would say the editors here, they put in their own little subcategory for second Esdras as judgment on Babylon, but we had to understand what this system looks like. Understand Babylon is a worldwide system that is headed up by different connections of countries. Not one country is Babylon. It's a system. Behold, clouds from the east and from the north to the south, and their appearance is very threatening, full of wrath and storm. They shall dash against one another, and shall pour out a heavy tempest upon the earth, and their own tempest. And there shall be blood from the sword as high as a horse's belly. We see that in Revelations chapter 18, I believe verses 12 or 13, if I'm not mistaken. And a man's thigh and a camel's hock, and there shall be fear and great trembling upon the earth. And those who see that wrath shall be horror stricken, and they shall be seized with trembling. And after that, heavy storm clouds shall be stirred from the south and from the north, and another part from the west. And the winds from the east shall prevail over the cloud that was raised in wrath, and shall dispel it. And the tempest that was to cause destruction by the east wind shall be driven violently toward the south and west. And great and mighty clouds, full of wrath and tempest, shall rise to destroy all the earth and its inhabitants, and shall pour out upon every high and lofty place a terrible tempest, fire and hail and flying swords, and floods of water, that all the fields and all the streams may be filled with the abundance of those waters. And they shall destroy cities and walls, mountains and hills, trees of the forest, and grass of the meadows, and their grain. And they shall go on steadily to Babylon, and shall destroy her. To me, what it looks like is the economy starts to get destroyed. The resources start to get destroyed. And then, as those resources get destroyed, people are looking and turning roundabout. Why are we destroying ourselves when these folks are making out? But at the same time, this place is going to be spiritually, and I say psychologically, be in despair. We can't travel anywhere. We can't go anywhere. Nobody really likes us. We kind of, the isolationism will be staggering. Folks will be urged to not travel at that time, and potentially speaking, I would say even at that time, and they shall go on steadily to Babylon and shall destroy her. This place will have to have a defensive footing. We have to defend. We have to defend. Let me go on. 2nd Ezra 15:44. They shall come to her and surround her. They shall pour out the tempest and all its wrath upon her. Then dust and smoke shall go up to heaven, and all who are about her shall wail over her. And those who survive shall serve those who destroyed her. Can you say those that lead that are led those who lead in captivity are led into captivity? Why do you think Trump is so adamant about BRICS? BRICS will cause the Third World War. As you can see, what the Most High is saying, that Third World War doesn't have a great outcome for the United States. And in any type of secession of war, when you are dealing with a people and that people get subdued, then they have to actually pay war reparations. Mind you, that is the only time that reparations is actually authorized. Reparations are not authorized for economic injustices. So even the very thought of trying to say to a people that we want reparations, that's literally the wrong legal title. So that's why they just laugh. Go ahead, call it reparations. You're calling it the wrong thing. We want you to continue to call reparations reparations because that is the technical misnomer. And what they're trying to say for economic injustices. And then on top of that, then we're going to cause you all to continue to fragment within one another because FBA and Pan Africanist and all this other stuff. Because why? Because the more dissension that can be caused, the less the true target it is that you can actually come together. See, once you understand the fundamentals here, then you can start to target in its own legal jurisdiction through the ICC and ICJ, and now it actually be ICJ. That then you will have the case of economic injustices. But when this nation falls, that's when you are legally able to make the case of reparations. You see how the enemy uses those dark words, and we're just going along with those dark words, like, oh yeah, it's we want our reparations, we want it now. No, it's actually not. It's actually called economic injustices. Because you cannot really you can't have reparations when you're still an active prisoner of war. You can't. Once that nation is then administratively liquidated, part of that administrative liquidation, i.e. bankruptcy, all parties are able to do what? Let me break this on down. All parties are able to make a claim against that particular nation or nations. Because why? Because everybody will start to transfer their authority, and then folks will start to show out their legal agreements that they've had with the construct of Babylon. No, we aren't the ones that you need to take. Our paper isn't here. Our gold isn't here. It's actually over there. Everybody will begin to point out who is legally in control. Let me tell you how this thing's going to go. America will point to London, and then London will point to the Vatican. Well, we don't owe you reparations. The Bank of London owes you reparations. We don't owe you reparations, man. The Vatican Bank owes you reparations. And the Vatican's looking all crazy because they're going to find out who's going to fight for me, which country will be raised up on my behalf, and no country will fight. That will truly be their horror when they see that place ransacked. Because that's not just their, financial. That's also your spiritual. That's their temple. And so now they don't want to see their temple being ransacked. What was Rome built on? What is it, Apollo? The Temple of Apollo was where the Vatican was built on. And Apollo was basically just the syncretic Roman word for Zeus, if I'm not mistaken. Y'all are definitely, feel free to definitely correct me on that one. Shout out to Gates of Holda. I'm trying to have this brought down to you all. Because again, every person that we have here that tries to say, "Oh, well, it's this, it's that, it's this, it's that," and it's like, you got to understand, there is always some sort of an ulterior motive. Always. So now France will be saying the same thing. It's not me, it's them. Italy, Germany, all those. The EU, nope, don't talk to me. Because why? Because they have carried away our treasures into their temples, literally. Is that not what the scriptures have said? Is that not what the word has literally said? They declared war on us. They created the legal framework for us to go after them. And in doing that, this is the mechanism. We just didn't understand. How are you going to have reparations paid? Reparations is correct. No, it is correct. Excuse me. It is correct, but the model of reparations is not correct within this capacity. It's not correct within this framework. What you would have in this capacity, especially within this government, would be an economic injustice that has been experienced among African Americans. And when that does happen, oh, they will spring out the 14th Amendment and they will take out the 14th Amendment so quick. They wouldn't amend the 14th Amendment. They would actually annul the 14th Amendment. Understand what they're trying to do. We got to annul the 14th Amendment. We have immigrants on over here. We have all these folks on over here. We have to annul the 14th Amendment. It sounds good on paper to annul the 14th Amendment. Why? Yes, African Americans, they need to have jobs. And this is what the jobs that have been taken from illegal immigration. This has been the issue of the country because of the amount of illegal immigration. Oh, I know. I know it's tough. I know folks are jumping on out of this conversation because it's tough. It's either folks jumping on out or YouTube kicking people out. Sorry, I think it's YouTube kicking people out because I was about 380. So try to find your way back on in here. I must have been, saying something to the algorithm. Thank you for joining again. The algorithm doesn't like when we talk about this. Because why? It's real easy to say, hey, reparations, whatever. Why do you think people ignore reparations? Why do you think they ignore reparations? Because why? Because that's not the real argument. That's not the real legal argument. In this time frame, in this construct, it is called economic injustice. That's the real time frame. But let me tell you when reparations begins prophetically. Second Esdras, chapter 15. We'll start here, verse 45. This is when reparations actually begin. So let me start here. And those who survive shall serve those who have destroyed her. What does that service look like? They now have to go up to some sort of extra governmental worldwide body. And they now have to come up with the plan to pay people back. Why? Because here it goes. And you, Asia, who share in the glamour of Babylon and the glory of her person, woe to you, miserable wretch. Because what is she going to do? She's going to try and deck herself out. Here you go. For you have made yourself like her. You have decked out your daughters in harlotry to please and glory in your lovers. You have always lust who have always lusted after you. You have imitated that hateful harlot in all her deeds and devices. Therefore, Yahuwah says, I will send evils upon you, widowhood, poverty, famine, sword, and pestilence to lay waste your houses and bring you to destruction and death, and the glory of your power shall wither like a flower. When the heat rises that is sent upon you, you shall be weakened like a wretched woman who is beaten and wounded, so that you cannot receive your mighty lovers. Would I have dealt with you so violently, said Yahuwah, if you had not always killed my chosen people, exulting and clapping your hands and talking about their death when you were drunk? Trick out the beauty of your face. The reward of a harlot is in your bosom. Therefore, you shall receive your recompense, as you will do to my chosen people, says Yahuwah. So Elohim will do to you and will hand you over to adversaries. Your children shall die of hunger, and you shall fall by the sword, and your cities shall be wiped out, and all your people who are in open country shall fall by the sword, and those who are in the mountain and highlands shall perish of hunger, and they shall eat their own flesh in hunger, and drink their own flesh and thirst for water. Unhappy above all others, you shall come and suffer fresh afflictions. And as they pass, they shall wreck the hateful city, and shall destroy a part of your land, and abolish a portion of your glory, as they return from devastated Babylon. I look at it like this: they will pay up. And as they pay up, this is what's going to get ready to happen. So all these BRICS nations and those that align with BRICS, okay, you're going to do what the Most High needs you to do. But then afterwards, when we are declaring our recompense, and you think that you're going to be able to hold on to that, understand what's going to get ready to happen. What does Asia have to go to? What country does Asia have to work through? The countries of Asia, they always work through Africa. To me, when I look at this, China, North Korea, Japan, South Korea, whatever you name it, even Iran, India, the Arab nations, they may be celebrating for a little bit. But when we say we want our stuff back, they're going to have to pay. Because why? Because the same bit of arrogance that they had on, that they saw from Babylon, they're going to have that on them. But the problem is going to be we return back to our land. And then we become healed. And in our healing, we are going to be taking our stuff back. You need this? Nope. You need that? Nope. You need water in your land? No, we're praying that the Most High dams up the clouds, that you get no more water. We're praying that the Most High destroys your cattle. We're praying that the Most High destroys your resources. This is how the whole world's going to know who we are. As we begin to establish ourselves, as we begin to come to ourselves, as we begin to get an understanding of ourselves, as we're beginning to return from devastated Babylon, as we're beginning to come back into our land, and we're connecting with our people, as we're beginning to not vex Ephraim and Ephraim not vexing Judah, as we begin to flow with one another. And as they pass, they shall wreck the hateful city and shall destroy a part of your land and abolish a portion of your glory. What does that mean? They're not going to be under these crazy contracts. You're going to rebuild, but don't think that you're going to partake. Now we own it. Nah, sorry. We're returning back from a devastated Babylon. This is talking to Asia. And ye shall be broken down by them. Who's them? Children of Judah and Israel coming together. And they shall be like fire to you. Wow. And they shall devour you and your cities, your land and your mountains. They shall burn with fire all your forest and your fruitful trees. They shall carry your children away captive and shall plunder your wealth and abolish the glory of your countenance. When people say, "Oh, they're going to get let off," no, they're not. Everything is being used and seasoned by the Most High. We're just now seeing it in this season. As we're seeing the Most High do and continue and move. I don't know about you all, family, but I'm pretty excited to see what's getting ready to unfold. Because it's the Most High who does all these things. And as we're seeing this season unfolding, I think everybody can kind of agree that the season that we're living in is definitely dynamic. But I know everybody has their analysis of different things. Okay, cool. But I'm going to tell you that their analysis is going to be, it's going to be catching up. Now, I'm not going to say compared to my analysis, everybody. No, it's going to be catching up because the Most High has allowed his people to understand what is going on. The Most High has allowed his people to realize what's happening. And that is this destruction their understanding, their knowledge, their wisdom of teaming is losing. All we're doing is seeing them lose. They're not winning, they're losing. All we're doing is seeing their hands being crushed. Who could understand those things if they don't want to tell you that they're losing? They don't want to tell you that. Give up their power, give up their authority, give up their understanding. They're not going to try and tell you that. They're going to tell you everything is good, everything is great, nothing to see here. Go back to doing the same old, same old. And this is why they are scared, because they see that their same old is being exposed. Because you think that there's going to be peace or peace talks or anything else like that, man. When they say peace and safety, sudden destruction. I'm sorry. That is, we read that Isaiah chapter 10, if I'm not mistaken. We're getting ready to get up on out of here. I can't tell you a time frame, and I'm not going to tell you a time frame. But don't think that Egypt is just now sitting on its hands. Nah, it's been emboldened because it now has BRICS behind its back. Surprise, surprise. This isn't a time that we're sitting on our hands. This is a time that we need to start getting to work, because the Most High is opening up doors to do the work that our brothers and sisters on the continent need us to help them accomplish. This work is not for the faint of heart. But I will tell you that with this work will take you to places and spaces that you never thought that you would accomplish. I never thought that I would accomplish anything like this. And I know I wouldn't have been able to do it on my own. But I thank the Most High, because you know what? I go through the highs and I go through the lows. But I know that the at the lowest point, it's not about being humiliated. When the Most High is give you an understanding of humility, because we're going to be raised into positions where all people will see is and examine, how do you walk, how do you talk, how do you move. And if we get into our flesh just one instant, that's all they want to see. Oh man, look at this, see how that, look at this, look at that. That's all they want to see. So family, keep this community up in prayer. We have some things going down. For those that understand program management principles, project management principles, for those that are doctors, for those that are nurses, for those that are CPAs, accountants, There's going to be some exciting opportunities coming up. Continue to keep me in your prayers, family. I can't tell you everything that I'm doing. No, yeah, right. But I do ask for your prayers. For those that are able to support, I appreciate it. Here is how you can support me through $COVAWK1. And you can either do Venmo, PayPal, or Zelle at karasty@msn.com. I can't tell you how quickly this mission is going to turn around. I can't. Matter of fact, I'm not even allowed to even say. But family, I'm telling you, there are things happening in the background that you wouldn't be able to believe. I'm telling you, family, we're going to need your help over at Quest to Unite Africa. Because we have building to do. It has been an awesome experience to see how the Most High and what he has done over the course of these 20 months. 20 months. And it is truly amazing to see how he's done things and why he's done things. So with that said, family, I do have to get going. I am late for a meeting. Tuesdays I come in. For those that want to come through our, usual offenders, I'll have the StreamYard link on up. Hallelujah. And we'll go from there, family. We shall go from there. And all this, I want to say, keep your head up. And give the Most High praise. We are in some truly exciting times. Can you believe that? Can we all truly believe we are in some exciting times? But see, they won't want to tell you the times because it's devastating for them, but it's exciting for us because we can see the Most High moving in his power and authority and his wonders for his people. Hallelujah. So with that said, family, I got to get up on out of here. Most High willing, I will be back on tomorrow and we'll get some thoughts and we'll see what's going to happen in the course of these 24 hours. I'm telling you, within the courses of hours, we'll see what's happened. Hallelujah. So with that said, family, shalom, salama, siyemi, shalom, peace and blessings. Yasharel.